Chiefs Kingdom, welcome into a brand new episode of the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. My name is Jackson Durham, and today we are breaking down the Chiefs' 14-12 loss to the Raiders in Week 18, finishing off the 2025-2026 season at 6-11. And I know all of that is disappointing, losing to the worst team in football, bar none, finishing the year much worse than you expected to. But today's loss, in the long run, is good news. And if you don't agree with me right now, you will by the end of today's episode. We will discuss that towards the end of the show. Before we get to that, though, I want to talk about a couple of other things. We're going to talk about some young guys who stood out in this game. 3 rookie standouts, 2 for better, 1 for worse. We're going to talk about those guys, the future of this team. We'll break down the game just a little bit, but I promise we won't spend too much time on it. It was painful. And then we're also going to talk about the rumors around Travis Kelce. Was this his final game? And we're going to discuss the milestones that, hey, if this was his final game, he accomplished some huge things in this one. Not a bad way to go out other than the loss, obviously. I mean, you hate to lose to the Raiders. That would stink. But when you guys hear the milestones he achieved in what might be his final game, you'll go, yeah, I can understand. But let's talk about this game first. Because the long and the short of it, we'll spend a minute on this one. And when I say that, I literally just mean like 1 minute. It sucked so much ass. 8 field goals combined for both teams, a safety. Neither team found their way into the end zone. We knew this coming into this, especially with how many starters were out for Kansas City. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes, but Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, Rashee Rice, Jawan Taylor, Josh Simmons, Isaiah Pacheco, Xavier Worthy, and that is not even the entire complete list of just done at that point. It's you get the point. Both of these teams, the Raiders have been awful all year. Chiefs are awful with that many guys out, as any NFL team would be. They're playing like the worst 2 teams in the NFL right now. Neither of these teams even look like they should be at the NFL level right now, if I'm being 100% honest. This was a painful game to watch. If you decided to spend your Sunday doing something different, I honestly can't blame you. I can't. It stunk. It was meaningless for both sides, especially since the Raiders had already locked up the number 1. And it's hard to give props. I mean, the defense had some solid moments, but it's against the Raiders, and they didn't even have Geno Smith in this game. They were starting Kenny Pickett, who quickly left with an injury, and they were down to QB3, Aiden O'Connell. You lost to Raiders QB3. That's the long and the short of this one, guys. Let's focus on some positive things here. We've got a number of positive things to discuss. First, young guys who stood out in this game to me. Number 1, Brashard Smith. We're going to start with a positive young guy that stood out. And Brashard was absolutely standing out for the right reasons. Just a really, really good game from him. 12 carries for 56 yards. That's the most work he's gotten all season as a rusher. Didn't get a ton of work tonight as a receiver, which surprised me a little bit, but the passing game just wasn't working at all. So, there you go. But Brashard was pretty much the only thing about the offense that had any sort of consistent success. 12 carries for 56 yards. Again, most work he's been given all season, and he thrived on it. And I've been pushing for him to be a bigger part of the offense all year long. We'd struggled to consistently establish the run game. I had wondered, could Brashard, with his explosive athleticism, be a solve for that? I think that was kind of what they were testing out tonight. How does Brashard respond to more work? How does Brashard step up into that role? And check on that box, in my opinion, as well as you could have done it, especially with key offensive linemen out. So really good performance from Brashard. That was great to see. A young guy who did not live up to expectations, and he was, for the first time, kind of given an opportunity, Jalen Royals. This guy just cannot make an impact. No matter... It felt like for a long time, and I want you to remember when we talk about Jalen Royals, because we're going to talk about him very differently than we do Brashard, and it might seem harsh, but this is a guy you spend a 4th-round draft pick on. And he cannot make an impact on a game. And it comes down to 2 things one of two things. I don't know what the answer to it is at the end of the day. Well, I didn't until today, I guess I should say. Is it just poor usage, or is he just not there yet? And I think today it was kind of evident that he's just not there yet. They manufactured opportunities for Jalen Royals to get involved in this game plan. Screen pass goes nowhere. 2 receptions on 3 targets for 4 yards for Jalen Royals. In a game where there should have been plenty of opportunity. In a game where young guys were getting work, which, hey, Andy Reid doesn't do that too often. Opportunity was there. Opportunity left on the table for Jalen Royals, in my opinion. Simple as that. Simple as that. We got another rookie to discuss in this one before we get into the rest of this conversation around why this game is good news. But before we get into all that, I got to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, and that is Prize Picks. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard. But in life and on Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. And with high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never stops. And Prize Picks lets you take control. Prize Picks now has early payouts. If your player gets off to an hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. And I've actually got my lineup already put together for tomorrow's hoops action. I'm going with the more on Cade Cunningham's points at 28.5, and I'm also taking the more on Jalen Brunson's points at 28.5 as well, and we're taking the more as well on Karl Anthony Towns' rebounds at 9.5. So you can tail me on this lineup, you can fade me on it, whatever you do, just do it at Prize Picks, because Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast and secure. They accept most major payment methods, making deposits into your account quick and easy this sports season. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Indeed it is. And you know who's right a lot today? Nohl Williams, baby. You guys know Nohl Williams is one of my favorite young players on this team. One of my favorite players on this team, period, on the defensive end. And he showed out today. Made me look really smart today. For the real ones, for our guys who've been locked in all season long with the Chiefs report, you know I've been pushing for Nohl to get more playing time in this secondary all year. And you see why. Gets his first career sack today. Also had 2 pass breakups. And just very consistent in coverage. Just very, very consistent in his down-to-down coverage. I think that's the most important thing, right? Like, you're going to have rookies who make big-time splash plays, and you get that with Nohl as well. He hasn't recorded an interception yet, but I think that's coming, the way he plays around the ball. But what Nohl doesn't do that sometimes those other rookies do is get too greedy. You don't see that a lot from Nohl. He's very down-to-down consistent. He's the same guy every snap. And I think that's extremely important. Almost as important as getting huge interceptions and getting huge pass breakups is just being a down-to-down, sticky cover guy. And I think that is Nohl to a T. But I want to hear from you guys. I want you to weigh in for me on this one. Let me know in the comments which of the 2 rookies that we discussed in a positive light in today's video. Obviously, we talked about Jalen Royals. But which of the 2 that we talked about positively between Nohl Williams and Brashard Smith do you think A, performed better today, and B, is going to be better in the long run? Let me know in the comments. Type NW for Nohl Williams or Brashard Smith, or BS for Brashard Smith, Let me know down below. NW for Nohl Williams, BS for Brashard Smith. Let me know. But let's talk about Travis Kelce. Young guys out of the way. Let's focus on one of the elder statesmen of our roster, to put it in a nice way. Travis Kelce. 3 catches for 12 yards today for him. Obviously not a splashy game, especially not by his standards, but an important game for a couple senses. And we'll get to the possible final game of his career sense in just a minute here. But first, a couple milestones that he accomplished today. He became the 3rd tight end in NFL history to cross the 13,000 career receiving yards mark. An enormous, enormous accomplishment. And I think it kind of goes without saying, but nobody else who has done that is not in the Hall of Fame. Everybody who's done that is in the Hall of Fame. So, in which he will very quickly join them. And he is also the fastest tight end in NFL history to cross the 13,000 yard mark, doing it in a whopping 40 games faster than Tony Gonzalez. 40 games. Unbelievable. 40 freaking games, guys. That is what? In the 16-game era, 2.5 seasons. 2.5 extra seasons for Tony Gonzalez. And that's not all he did today. 10th consecutive season with 75 or more receptions for Travis Kelce. Got there today with the third catch. And that ties Raiders legend Tim Brown for the most in NFL history, most consecutive seasons with 75 or more receptions in an NFL career. Kind of ironic that he ties a Raiders legend's career record in our game against the Raiders. But the last notable milestone about this game for Kelce is the only one that isn't fun to talk about. And that's that this might have been his last game. And that's the reality of it at the end of the day. I've vocalized this before, and I know this is kind of the unpopular sentiment. I'm not 100% sold on the idea that Kelce's just going to walk away yet. I think it's possible. It's 100% possible that he does. But I don't think it's as set in stone just yet as a lot of other people do. I really don't. I think he is going to take some serious time to weigh the pros and cons of it. I think a lot of it is going to come down to Patrick Mahomes' recovery. And that's something that you and I and Travis don't have the answers to exactly what that's going to look like right now. I don't think any of us could blame Travis for walking away under any circumstance, but I don't think you definitely couldn't blame him for walking away if it becomes the case, and I don't think it's going to become this case, that Patrick's going to miss a significant portion of next season. If that's the way it ends up going, I think Travis would be almost silly to come back for a year that isn't likely to mean anything. You know, if Patrick's going to miss significant time, I'm talking like half the season, which again, that is a big, big stretch. That would be the very, very conservative estimates of his recovery timeline, but everything has to be taken into account. All of that is going to factor into Travis's decision. So don't expect anything anytime soon. That's the other end of what I'm telling you here. I don't expect a decision from Kelce anytime soon. I think he's going to take a long time to think about this, to discuss it with his family. Obviously, his fiancée, Taylor Swift, is going to play a huge role in this decision in her own way. But I think maybe the largest factor outside of everything going on with him and his family is Patrick Mahomes. Is he going to be there week one if Travis decides that he's going to be there week one? Something to watch for sure. Something that we will keep you 100% updated on here on the Chiefs Report. So make sure you've hit that subscribe button and turned on the notification bell if you haven't already. Before we get into, at long last, why this loss is good news. Chiefs did not play well today. Nothing about it went well other than a couple good performances from some young guys. But the reason I say it's good news, the reason that's why I opened this video that way, it's the title of today's video probably, is because you locked up the 9th overall pick. I know. Top 10 draft pick for the Kansas City Chiefs. Who would have thunk it at the beginning of the year? Absolutely not. I'm sure you could have made a ton of money with that. Absolutely you could have. Absolutely you could have. But it's the reality of the situation. For a couple reasons. Our loss, huge, but also, we actually could have gotten a little bit higher if the Saints had won, but our loss jumps us up into 9th, and if you had won the other end of this, if you had won this game, you would have been picking in the mid-teens. So it's not just a tiny move, it's a huge shift in your draft positioning. And we've already talked about some draft targets on this channel already. Again, for the real ones who've been subscribed, you know exactly who I'm talking about. We did our offensive draft targets video and our defensive draft targets video. I encourage you to go check them out if you haven't already, to get yourself kind of in that draft state of mind, because that's kind of where we're heading. We're going to obviously hit free agency first, get through all of that, but the draft is going to be looming large. A lot of big decisions for Kansas City to make, so definitely something Chiefs fans should be up to date on. I'm going to give you a couple guys that, in my opinion, would be awesome picks at the 9th overall pick. Guys that could get this franchise back on track, not on their own, but when you combine them with some of the other things that Kansas City is going to be able to do this offseason, which we will talk about in our perfect offseason video a little bit later this year, you'll be back on track in absolutely no time. 3 guys. Number 1, Carnell Tate. I've made it pretty clear. If Carnell Tate is there, if you have the opportunity to take him, he should be your pick at number 9. I don't think he's going to be there. I would be surprised if he slides down to number 9. But if he's there, on the off chance, that's your guy. 1,000% that is your guy. Absolutely. He is the best receiver in this class, in my opinion. He is phenomenal at the catch point. He would be a perfect match for what Kansas City needs and what Kansas City currently lacks in the receiver room. But if you don't want to go receiver, or if Carnell Tate's just not there, which is pretty likely to be the case, as I've said, Reuben Bain on the defensive end. Fantastic in Miami's win over Ohio State. Huge part of the reason why they end up taking that game. Got great pressure on Julian Sayin, repeatedly was after him. Him and Akeem Mesidor were living in the backfield in that game. And that's just something he's done all season long. We talked about him in our defensive targets video. I think he's a phenomenal player. Yes, there's a chance he'd have to kick inside at the NFL level, but I still think he presents you a ton of value at that position, especially as a long-term Chris Jones successor. And lastly, Jeremiyah Love. Maybe the most popular name in Chiefs draft circles right now. You could go running back, and there's not a lot in the entire world right now that are more fun than Jeremiyah Love. The Notre Dame product is just a walking highlight reel. Something I've called him before, something I'll continue to describe him as because it is absolutely accurate. He just makes play after play, finished 3rd in the Heisman voting this season, and I honestly think he should have been 2nd. Jeremiyah Love would be a huge difference maker when you think about what Kansas City already has, which in my opinion is, when it's fully healthy, a very solid offensive line for him to run behind, and if you can add some receivers, a solid passing game. So, those 3 guys, 3 options to think about. I want to hear from you. Which of the 3 would you draft if you were making the decision? Type CT for Carnell Tate, type RB for Reuben Bain, type JL for Jeremiyah Love. So let me know, one of those 3 guys, who would you take at number 9? But like I said, we've got a lot more draft targets coming for you later this offseason. And on that note, allow me to be the first to welcome you guys to the Kansas City Chiefs 2026 offseason. It is going to be an absolutely enormous one. A lot of huge decisions coming. We're going to be here to keep you up to date on every single one of them. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we will see you guys in the next video. Let's go Chiefs.